stand back. I'm gonna kick my butt.
Welcome to Davey Dave's Take. Today we are talking about Kung Fu Panda 4, the fourth film in the popular animated franchise. After Po is tapped to become the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, he needs to find and train a new dragon warrior. If you didn't know me personally, you probably didn't know that I am a huge fan of the Kung Fu Panda franchise. I love these films. I think they're wonderful. They're the types of films that you can put on any time, any day of the week, and just have an absolute blast. They just have this super fun style to them with great animation, great action, an amazing soundtrack, and they're very touching films with stories that are very thoughtful. They also have great characters and great villains. I honestly think Kung Fu Panda is one of the most underrated franchises today. So of course, I unfairly had extremely high expectations for Kung Fu Panda 4, even though I read that it was a different director, different writers, and there were some cast members that weren't going to be in the film that were in the original 3. But I should have listened to those warning signs because I was pretty disappointed with Kung Fu Panda 4, and honestly, this is one of the more disappointing films I've seen lately. And yes, I understand people will be like, what, you're surprised that Kung Fu Panda 4 wasn't a masterpiece? What are you, Dave, fucking stupid? But like I said before, I just feel like the first 3 films had this type of quality to them that I felt like the 4th one should have had, but it just wasn't there. But I do need the preference. There are good things in Kung Fu Panda 4 that I enjoyed. I was just disappointed by it. But the first thing I need to give praise is the animation. It is beautiful. It looks amazing. Each year the animation just gets better and better. In Kung Fu Panda 4, you could tell the animators did a great job here. It feels like the animation we've seen before, but it feels like there is this different type of style to it. And I really appreciate the film feeling a little bit different from what we've seen before. And of course, this film has some incredible action sequences. I mean, the Kung Fu Panda franchise has some of the best animated action sequences we've seen. But Kung Fu Panda 4 is filled with those sequences. So if you're wanting those sequences in this film, you definitely get those. Also, I liked Awkwafina's character in this film. I felt like that was like the driving force for this film, like the character that we're really latching onto, which is really weird because it should be Po, but it's her, and I thought she did a good job and I liked her character. But those are the only compliments I can give this film. It just felt like this was a shell of a Kung Fu Panda movie. Like those first 3 Kung Fu Panda movies really had some heart, a message behind it, and it felt like there was this real story that was trying to be told. Obviously, when a studio makes a film, the goal is to make money, but it felt like those first 3 films had some heart to them. Kung Fu Panda 4 is the first Kung Fu Panda movie where it feels like they just made the film just to make some money. It feels like the film is trying to have that classic message or lesson learned through Po, but it comes at a sacrifice from Po's character because it feels like he's going backwards from what he's learned in previous films. So there are parts of the film where it feels like a lot of these messages or moments are almost forced. And speaking of forced, there are a lot of things that happen throughout the film when it comes to callbacks or certain characters that definitely feel forced because it feels like the story itself has nothing new to say. They're like, hey, fuck it, let's bring back all these characters because you just remember them. That's the only reason why we're bringing them back. But who cares if it ruins some of the lore of Kung Fu Panda? And that's why the film just feels like it's a shell. It feels like it's trying to be just a cash grab. It also feels like the film is just trying to finish as quickly as possible. There's so many jokes thrown at you, an action sequence. There's not enough time to react to the joke or the action sequence. It's just joke, 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 action sequence, and something else happens. It's like, slow the fuck down, movie. And I know what you're gonna say, oh, Dave, the first 3 Kung Fu Panda films are like that. I disagree. I feel like the first 3 films had this excellent pace to them where we could react to the comedy and the action and the heartfelt moments. In Kung Fu Panda 4, I did not feel like that at all. It just felt like they're just trying to get to the finish line as quickly as possible. Let's talk about the villain here, because a villain in a Kung Fu Panda movie is very important. I felt like the first 3 Kung Fu Panda movies had great villains, underrated villains, and they were very important to the story. I thought she was just okay. I don't think she was bad, but I thought she was just fine. When she was on screen, she had some badass moments, and the film was more fun. But her motivations felt pretty weak, and there were some things that she does that didn't really make sense. And it felt like just her presence, some of the things that she does, felt like it was just nostalgia bait because she shapeshifts into characters that we've seen in previous movies. So it felt like she wasn't doing these things. It felt like it was old characters that we've seen before doing these things. It just felt less menacing. It felt more disappointing. And it pains me to say it, but I was pretty disappointed by the score. I don't think it's bad. It just felt underwhelming compared to what we've gotten before. And that's just a bummer. I feel like that's one of the best parts about a Kung Fu Panda movie is the soundtrack. Look, I don't think this film is horrible by any means. I think it's better than most of what we've seen so far this year, and it is a competent movie. It has a plot with characters that develop, and there's an ending. You can look forward to that. But if you're a big fan of this franchise, it's hard to say if you'll really enjoy this film because there are moments of great sequences and great animation that we've come to love when it comes to these movies. But for me, as someone who's a huge fan, I was expecting a lot better, so I was pretty disappointed. I'm gonna give Kung Fu Panda 4 6 Davey Daves. You probably saw my rating, you're like, wait, you like that less than other movies you rated higher this year? I'll be honest, I like this film better than most that I've seen this year so far, but I felt like I need to be a little bit harsher on this rating because I am a fan of the franchise and I was expecting a lot better. So, Kung Fu Panda 4, let me know what you guys thought of it once you've seen it. I'm curious to hear, and thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Dave's Takes.